r/AskReddit by Redmond Dts. What's the worst business idea you've seen someone try to execute? Father-in-law drove 18 hours down to Florida to catch shrimp, filled his tiny car with tons of the shrimp, and drove back. It took days to vacuum seal the shrimp that hadn't gone bad, only to sell a few bags to some friends. The car smelled like seafood for years. There was a guy in my town that opened a business that was the equivalent of a brick and mortar version of Craigslist or newspaper classified ads. It was a unit in a strip mall with bulletin boards. You paid to put an ad up and other people came to look at the ads with a small picture. This was after Craigslist existed, not some pre-internet thing. There was no actual merchandise in the store, just crappy pictures of stuff with the contact info. It wasn't even a high foot traffic location. You had to maneuver through a busy intersection, park and go inside to look at a bulletin board. It went under, and he tried to blame the landlord because he couldn't get a sign permit for the end of the building, even though he had 2 other signs. When I was in high school, one of my friends wanted to start a little coffee shop or hot chocolate stand with a cuddle corner and free hugs for anyone who wants them. She offered jobs to our other friends. The idea was that this little business would be operated and staffed by high schoolers. She failed to see the issue with having 16-year-old girls required give free hugs to customers or having to staff the cuddle corner. Can't believe no one mentioned that guy who went on Shark Tank to pitch a Bluetooth earpiece that you got surgically implanted in your ear canal that you charged by sticking a needle in your ear while you slept. Monthly sex toy subscription. You would get a different sex toy each month, which is an okay idea I guess. There's one of those for everything nowadays. But the only problem this guy had is that he wanted the customers to eventually return the toy so he could pass it on to the next customer. He actually got in talks with an owner of a local sex shop to help him start, but the enthusiasm flattened out quite quickly. Guy I know got a small inheritance. Enough for a deposit on a unit or small house. Nope. Seahorse farm. Turns out seahorses are difficult to breed. In about 2005, my friend's dad tried to start an arcade in a small town just outside walking distance from a school using beat up second-hand machines. To get there from the school, you'd have to walk by an established, larger arcade that also sold food. One of the younger dudes in my karate class was going to start a handyman business. 24 hours, anything needing to be done, anywhere in our district. Sounds good. You gonna get a loan and buy a used truck and get some tools. And you never have talk time on your phone, so will you get a landline? 2006, so not super outlandish. No, I'll go on my bicycle. And I'll just use the tools they have. And they can email me when they need service. Right, because when I have water spraying out of my geyser through the ceiling at 3 AM, I'm going to email a dude on a bicycle to come fix it using all the tools and the ladder I don't own. Context: I live in Las Vegas. When I was in my 20s, I was hired by a man who wanted to build MySpace for strippers. His goal was for the men on the site to pay him to follow their favorite strippers and know what clubs they were dancing at and when. He shut the project down after months of paying me when he found out that no stripper would sign up for it. Sign up to get stalked. That crazy expensive juicer from several years ago that used proprietary juice packets. You could just poke a hole in the packet and hand squeeze the juice for free to save a few $100s. Dude bought 150,000 fidget spinners at the height of the craze. It took months to ship out from China, and by the time all his stuff arrived, the mania had ended, and the retail price was already near his original wholesale price. Freaking guy still has fidget spinners today. I guess he may eventually do okay on it, but goddamn. One time many years ago my friend and I were in line behind a woman who had a shirt emblazoned with the word taint. He inquired about it, and it turned out it was her clothing company. She explained that she loved the word taint. Like, taint this, taint that. He explained the popular meaning of the word to her, and her face dropped. I was mortified, but he probably did the right thing. I have a friend whose family has gotten involved in multiple pyramid schemes. And every single time they get into a new pyramid scheme, they claim it's not a pyramid scheme. No, you don't get it. I'm the boss. Once I produce 5 clients for my mentor, then I keep all my new clients, and they have to get me 5 new clients each. It's people helping people. There was a bar that opened in the capital of my country that wouldn't charge you for the drinks, but for the time spent there. Obviously everyone's goal was to drink as much as possible in the least possible amount of time, so they had to shut down soon. Somebody thought it would be a good idea to open a dance club in my northern Canadian city with a dress code. 90% of the population is tradesmen and miners who only own Carhartts and Hivis. Needless to say, it shut down within 6 months. Someone in my neighborhood opened an artisan hot dog restaurant called Everyone's Frank about a decade ago. My dad and I went in once at about 6 PM on a Saturday. We were the only customers, so the owner, who was working the register, chatted us up. He talked about his plans to expand the business to about 15 locations, which was completely delusional. He also talked about how much he spent on the interior redesign, which was pointlessly fancy. The hot dogs cost $9 and tasted terrible. We never went back, and the place was bankrupt within 6 months. My dad always said they'd gone bankrupt. I volunteered at the start of COVID for a charity shop. They sold clothes. We got a lot of great merch in, but we had limited space. I suggested that we cycle the stock by seasons. As in, summer clothes got put out straight away, but sellable winter clothes got put upstairs to be sold in winter. The manager did not like this idea. Except that 90% of the stock was winter wear. That spark joy thing really hit home. So our entire shop was filled with woolly sweaters and Ugg boots in May. Suffice to say, they went out of business. One asshole tried to exploit people's fears after the 9/11 attacks by marketing parachutes to businesses with offices in skyscrapers. There was nothing special about them, they were normal parachutes. He had a TV interview where he tried promoting how easy it was going to be to get into the harnesses. However, his assistant couldn't get into the harness. He chastised her for it on television. Even after he tried to help her, they couldn't get the harness to fit. In my country there was a guy who used to sell wood. The problem was he did not have any of it. So he would ask for payment and then not give the product afterwards, hoping that procrastination and time will make the problem go away. He did 4 years in jail. So my friend had an idea that she thought was brilliant. It was to take all tap water and bottle it in parks and sell it, and then use that money to pay for homeless necessities. Really good intentioned and a kind gesture. However, in my country there are free fountains everywhere for drinking. So she spoke to our town's mayor and suggested that all of our water gets put into water bottles and then we sell them beside the water fountains. The mayor destroyed it really quickly with how it would create unnecessary waste, the amount of money you have to spend on wages to have people standing near fountains 24/7. What if people have reusable water bottles, and why doesn't she find a way to collect money for existing homeless programs? Friend got pissed, still thinks her idea is brilliant. Edit, everyone is commenting how this is Nestle, but I don't think they are reading the post fully. The part that the mayor rejected wasn't reselling tap water, it was taking free public water in fountains, which is maintained by tax money, and then charging for the water again right beside it. It's like standing in a park selling oxygen tanks. It was also just a funny image to me to imagine entry-level workers, most likely young teens, just standing around all of our water fountains 24/7, charging for redundant and wasteful water bottles. The cost of this would be very high, and it would probably not generate enough revenue to begin to pay back the wages, let alone contribute to homelessness effectively. I think an idea could be here, but it needs a lot more work, and I think she moved on. Specialty chocolate shop. It only sold the exact same standard candy bars as any supermarket, but with less of a range, and at 4 times the price. I asked the manager if he had Lindt chocolate balls, upmarket but well-known product, and he said, "What are those?" Also, there was a supermarket 2 doors down. A loudmouth drunk, supposedly an ex-NFL player from way back, opened a fancy pizza place across the street from the small town's old favorite normal pizza place. It was a pretty obvious attempt to put the old place out of business and corner the lucrative small town pizza market. The owner of the new place would get hammered and walk around to random tables to schmoz. He would loudly hit on the ladies in front of their dates. It had really good pizza, but it was horribly overpriced and the portions were tiny. It went out of business pretty quickly. We have a small-time theme park in my state called Evermore, and they thought it would be a good idea to try and sue Taylor Swift over her album of the same name. A lady opened a Southern soul food buffet in my city. It was incredible. Amazing food. On some days, it was a buffet with a rotating menu depending on the day of the week, and those days were not equal. So what happened was, people would go on an off day, be unimpressed, not come back. Or come on one of the better days, love it, come back on an off day, then never come back. I was so disappointed. I would donate towards reopening that restaurant, but with only the optimal menu every day. That woman has serious culinary talent. I had a client apply for a $3 million SBA loan to buy a treehouse building franchise. I asked him why he wouldn't just build the tree houses and save the $3 million. He said he'd never considered that. Quibi. That and something I saw on Shark Tank. These buttons you put on your nightstands so you can tell your spouse you're in the mood for sex without risking rejection. Like, just talk to the person you married maybe. Other Shark Tank gems. Stuffed elephant in a display case that you bring out when you need to talk about something difficult. Post-it note holder for your computer monitor. Stand where people had to operate a bicycle-powered blender to get a smoothie. There was a bar that opened up in my city and their entrance was hidden. They did a news story and they refused to tell the paper where it was actually located. To everyone's complete surprise, they only stayed open for a couple of weeks. Tanning salon in Bangkok, Thailand. Thais idealize snowy white skin and go to huge lengths to avoid the sun on their skin. They've never gotten used to seeing Western women baking in bikinis on beaches. Even if the culture didn't idealize white skins, they wouldn't need tanning salons. They're in the tropics for freaks' sake. In our town a few years ago was a zombie-themed donut shop. Yeah. The donuts had cool names and interesting ingredients, but unfortunately, they cost almost twice as much as Krispy Kreme. I mean, kudos to them for trying to cash in on the zombie fever that was going around at that time, and at least they took a shot, but the business didn't do well. They closed down pretty quickly. In my college town there was a cereal restaurant. Why make a bowl of cereal at home when you can pay $5 for someone else to do it? Not surprisingly, it closed soon after opening. I saw something where these men were trying to sell gloves to wear for girls when changing pads or tampons so we don't get blood on our hands. What do these guys think we've been doing our whole life? Besides, we wash our hands and we don't need gloves to wipe after using the bathroom. Very stupid idea. Quibi. It's like TV, but only 5 minutes long and vertical. Money please. My mother with her wonderful idea of being a baby masseuse. Yes, massages for babies was her idea. Except in order to be allowed to touch random children, You need to be a certified professional, preferably operating in a clinic for obvious reasons. My mother has 0 certificates, 0 diplomas, doesn't take any care of herself at all, has poor hygiene, and lived in a sketchy neighborhood. Now imagine an obese woman with greasy hair and worn out clothes saying she wants to give a massage to your baby. Not to mention the fact there's already children's doctors and other professionals who have training and know what they are doing, unlike her, who watched 2 videos on YouTube and decided she was a professional. Yes mom, great idea. I really can't understand how that business idea of yours didn't take off immediately. My schoolmate at high school wanted to be a club manager. He organized a concert where he invited kinda famous foreign band to the local club. He paid so much money for them just to arrive, plus their expenses at the bar. In the end like 20 people showed up, half of them were his friends. Fortunately he had a very rich dad, so he paid for that and life went on. The dude started selling art next day, no need to say he failed miserably again. Trying to cash in on the rental scooter thing, this company envisions rental pogo sticks everywhere. There was a Russian potato restaurant below my previous apartment. I ate there a couple of times, but their menu changed so often I never had a favorite potato. Also had potato lasagna, potato cheesecake and potato drinks. It wasn't successful. An old local pub legend, friend of mine won 400,000 pounds, around $500,000 at the time, on the lottery. So, he decides to buy two tanning salons opposite each other thinking that he had an instant monopoly. But the problem came when he started getting them to compete with one another. The managers at each salon began a pricing war and he was broke in 6 months. Holy fudge, this question sparked a long forgotten and best forgotten memory, but I remembered it now, so here goes. Me and my childhood mate called Barry decided that, since he had a big shed, we could set up a shop to sell sweets to the lazy kids that didn't want to walk the 5 minutes to the normal shop. What we done was invest I'm assuming about 70 pence, in sweets. Brought them round to his shed. With no signs or advertising, we had hoped that the other kids would just stroll on in and buy our merch at twice the price you could get it from the shop. That venture lasted until about tea time, and we ate the stock in one sitting. Disclaimer, prices and memories may be blurred to a mixture of time passed and beer intake. A dating app that pairs people by the STDs they have in common. Edit, no joke. My cousin was pitching this idea 8 years ago. Gluing vaginal lips together during your period rather than using tampons. Yes, it was invented by someone without a vagina. A digital camera that looks like a classic Japanese 35mm point and shoot. The memory card, which looks like a 35mm film roll and only has space for 36 images, has to be sent away, like in the old days, to get developed into prints that are mailed back a week later. It is always on Kickstarter. A lot of restaurants, when facing financial crunches, will raise the price of the food and cut the serving size. People will usually tolerate one or the other, within reason, but to do both is asking for trouble. Many restaurants face shortfalls, but if they don't do this, oftentimes they can weather the storm. If they do cut servings and raise prices, they almost never survive. A dating app where as soon as you swipe right on someone, you have to go on a date with them. This was thought of by my male friend who had matches, but no dates. I told him that as a woman, I wouldn't feel safe going on a date with someone without talking to them, but he didn't seem to care. Those two brothers that bought 17,700 bottles of hand sanitizer and tried to profit from price gouging during the start of the pandemic. Anyone who wants to open a business in a poor area, particularly a rural one. I'm completely serious. Go where the money is. Even though there are some businesses that do okay in poor areas, dollar stores, liquor stores, some garages, etc. Anyone with enough on the ball to open a business like that can equally open a better performing business by looking to a more well-off community. Or as Frank Burns of MASH said, Dr. Blank can't be a very good doctor. If he was, he'd be in Beverly Hills helping the wealthy. There's actually a lot of smarts there. Are better doctors and lawyers found in rich areas or poor areas? That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.